So you do like it?
I love it, yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
There's no circuit like it anywhere else in the world. It's the Nurburgring Nordschleife, bested maybe only by Bathurst for its challenge and for the respect it commands from drivers, from spectators all around the world, and it plays host to round 8 of Simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series tonight for Pass 2 and for Pro-Am on SimSpeed. Looking forward to the challenge that this circuit presents, and also hopefully some great quality racing across the two divisions on show tonight. First up will be Pass 2, and for the coverage, I'm David Haynes, joined by Jay Kennedy. Jay, we love this track. It's been a great championship and a great series to this point as well.
100%. It's been brilliant. It's been entertaining. We've seen lots of different action throughout, and this track is definitely going to sort out the contenders from the pretenders. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. 40-minute race for Pass 2 and a 1-hour race for Pro-Am. It's going to be a very, very entertaining night. It's going to be a tough night, but I think it's really going to sort out this championship as we get close to the end.
Indeed. So let's take a look at the famous and challenging circuit. Now, I know my German geography pretty well, but Jay probably had to Google where it was.
I just let it do itself for it. Work it out.
If you don't know, here it is in Germany, a bit north of Hockenheim, Jay, a bit south of Cologne, well placed amongst the mountains, and what a monstrously long circuit it is, with officially 154 corners on this combined 24-hour layout with the Grand Prix track and the Nordschleife in combination. Opened in 1927, this layout since 2002, clockwise, but the real challenge, the length of over 20 kilometers and the innumerable challenging, sometimes blind, sometimes off camber corners in all sorts of tricky places.
I think the one thing that catches a lot of drivers out is remembering the exact point of the track that you're at. Sometimes you do get a little bit lost and you think you're in another section than where you are, and drivers that are a little bit inexperienced may suffer from that in this, but drivers that have really tested themselves and done the practice will understand exactly where this track goes and have a really good showing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this does play out. It's going to be very, very tough, but very, very entertaining. Drivers are qualifying at the moment, but before we get to the grid, we'll quickly look at the balance of performance updates in this class for Pass 2. A couple of tweaks, but it's not that much of a change from last round.
No, we're unfortunately still missing McLaren. It's really been an Aston Martin, Mercedes, Porsche affair to this point. Porsche loses a little bit. I think it'll still be a very strong car around this circuit. Mercedes gains just a tiny bit of power. No change to that Aston Martin, and as we said, McLaren sadly lacking. So still 100% power for the Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT4's 4-litre turbocharged V8.
You sure about that?
Absolutely confident. And let's take a look at the championship standings in Pass 2 in this GT4 category. Sam Muir leads the way from Seth Brown and Richard Mayer. It is a three-way tussle at the top of the points. Mayer in the Cayman challenging the Mercedes drivers of Muir and Brown. Then we'll take a look at how they qualified, because it is such a challenge to qualify around this circuit. With 154 corners, it's like rolling the dice 154 times. It can't come up sixes every single roll, so you've got to play it safe. You can't ever push 100% on a qualifying lap around here, but some dare to get close. And who dares wins. Jason Bentz gets that pole position, sharing the front row with Douglas Gowans. Brady Buchanan and Hilton Booth I've got on the next row.
Again.
Jason Bentz is on pole though, so it started off strong.
start right. Let me click a couple of buttons here. I think we've got it. Yeah.
It looks better, and it looks correct. Jason Bentz on pole from Jacques Swanepoel as first and second, the front row of this rolling start. Brady Buchanan and Hilton Booth, they're on the second row. Booth surely enjoying all of the horsepower afforded to him. The first Porsche Cayman on the grid is Douglas Gowans there in fifth, so still to the pointy end, even if he's not where the graphic initially said he was. Then Jason Muscat in sixth. Tim Harris and Sean Lacey on the next row there in seventh and eighth. Ninth and 10th is Stu Brown and Matthew Gerard. I note only the first four drivers actually had qualifying times with that challenge that we pointed out. Paul Longworth and Patrick Hansen. After that, the tiebreaker is iRacing, and then Matt Hardigan, Mark Cochran, and Greg Panton. So from fifth place on back, they're just gridded by iRating. Bentz, Swanepoel, Buchanan, and Hilton Booth, our four drivers to successfully lay down a qualifying time in the 10-minute session. I think that actually speaks very strongly, though, to who can survive this 60-minute race. 40-minute race. 40-minute race, Jay.
I've clicked the wrong graphic. I've loaded the wrong one. That's all right. It's still the same, except it's 40 minutes. Everything else is the same.
I stand by my point that if you struggle to set a single clean qualifying lap, you are going to struggle to race cleanly around this circuit, because I think you're racing the 154 corners before you're racing anyone else on the grid. It's in that order, not the other way around.
You're racing yourself and mentally as well, because you can't get through even turn one and getting through all of those, as you said, 154 corners. You're really going to struggle to get yourself through the night. So first you have to finish a lap before you can finish the race. It's the race to be able to win the race. So here we go. About to get the first of those 154 corners in lap one.
And maybe to help out our drivers just a little bit, the race start on the GP circuit means they're going to have a little bit more room for error as they bring tyre temperatures up on the 34 degrees Celsius track before they have to turn onto the challenging Nordschleife. They're waiting on the green flag, on the green lights. They get them, and they'll race down towards the hairpin turn one, which is an S's on the 24-hour layout circuit. The whole field of GT4s, cold tyres, barreling down in towards turn one. Track drops away aggressively at the apex. No trouble for the pole sitter and the cars up front. Drivers know this will be one of the longest races of the season.
Yep. Only two endurance races of the 40-minute length all season long. So a good chance to get a good result as well with a tough circuit. If you are strong at this track, it's a really great opportunity to try and work your way forward and get yourself up with some great points. But relatively clean start, great to see on what is projected to be a 5-lap race with a pit stop.
So great start from Bentz. Buchanan was pressuring for second place, but it's between Gowans and Muscat that the most excitement is at the moment through the Dunlop hairpin. A little bit of banking there if you do get up a little on the high side, and the Mercedes has carried good speed against the Porsche. No, the Mercedes also carrying some reasonable horsepower as well. Hilton Booth's in a bit of rare, fresh air, and Sean Lacey thinking about a dive in that multicolored Harlequin Porsche. Certainly a good car to have in the twisty bits.
Yeah, it'll be strong throughout the infield section, the second half of the lap. It'll be very, very strong and great to watch through there. But I think great to see a lot of caution being thrown and shown through this early part of the lap as well. So everyone's making sure that not too much aggression, just the right amount. No one's making ambitious moves yet. Lacey does make a move there on Harris just as I say that. But at the front, it stayed relatively single file the whole way through. Bentz broken about a second, but that can change very, very quickly at this track.
You're talking about that level of caution. Buchanan clearly trying to be a little aggressive, looking to make the move, but not going to put all of his chips on one roll of the dice. And Gowans starting to create a tiny bit of a train here as he builds confidence, builds tyre temperature. It's cool in the air, but hot on the track with some strong German sunshine. you've got to be so careful of the curbs because these GT4 cars just will not ride them like a GT3 will, like a touring car might. Real challenge, and maybe some pogoing or some bouncing can get in there if you get too much curb or you strike the curb wrong. I'm seeing Tim Harris. Yeah. No? Yes, maybe. Someone's in an Aston Martin really challenging towards Flugplatz, and we know that Aston Martins are available with the full horsepower. I mean, Tim Harris is, but I was actually looking at Patrick Panton.
Got 4 Astons, actually. So we've got Greg Panton, Patrick Panton, and also Matthew Gerard along with Tim Harris, who's dropped back from...
All that without Simon Mizomo.
Yeah, Mizomo, who ran it last round. He's decided... I jokingly said to him, he won his $20 from Super Cheap Auto. Oh, no.
2 drivers in the Armco. You see it there, but also
Cochrane.
One of the Pantons. Yeah, and Cochrane doing it as well. So at Schwedenkreuz and Arenberg, 2 drivers coming astray. You saw Lacey get a little aggressive to the inside of Arenberg there, but probably deserved a little more room than he ended up with. Not too many scratches on his Porsche, and he's looking to punch forward again behind Douglas Gowans. The leader now 7 seconds away from where Lacey sits at the moment. GT4s can take a bit of a hit though, because it looks like everyone's still trying to get around. Though Cochrane is probably better off looking for a tow. Yeah. He's probably better off looking for a tow truck at the kind of pace he's doing. But everyone else still moving.
Actually hit the wall pretty hard on both sides of the car, so that's why he's got mechanical black flag.
Too much speed. Car gets light over that crest as you're turning left, and if I had $1 for every time I've hit that red and white Armco, I could have a lot of money.
I'm gonna say you might be able to get yourself some something from the Super Cheap Auto catalogue.
Yeah, I was thinking something from the KFC catalogue as well, but both of them
Look,
are pretty good. Pretty good. So things fan out a little bit in the top 5, but we know passing very challenging in this part of the circuit. And you see behind Stuart Brown here, Gerard, Patrick Panton, Matt Hardigan, and Paul Longworth. No one willing to make a gutsy move just yet, although Gerard's got a good run. He is in that Aston Martin, and when you get a long straight stretch, he can stretch that horsepower around the outside at the louder links that then bring them in to Bergwerk. Made famous or potentially infamous by Nicky Lauda, that section of track.
Gowans and Harris side by side as well. It's exactly what you're talking about with the Aston Martin here, stretching its legs, stretching its power, and it's going to go...
Stretching the track limits.
Yeah. A bit ambitious, but he's going to get it done by the looks of it.
Can kind of depend on the gearing as well. You know, maybe you reach a gear that kind of bogs you down in one car but not the other, and the Porsche will stay ahead. And Harris drops back in behind, coming towards one of the most picturesque parts of the track. Someone's off at the Bravery corner there. Someone's had a big swipe of the Armco. Was it Booth or was it behind here? I swear someone got in a little hot.
Vence has broken a pretty big margin. I'll try and find it and get a replay up soon, but Vence is out to 3.5 seconds, and Swanepoel and Buchanan not able to stick with, but Gowans and Harris is a really intense little battle, and just behind Muscat, remember, he hit the wall pretty hard before. Then behind Gerard, you got Brown, who, Gerard has a big moment there. He loses the spot to Brown, and he's going to lose another to Panton, maybe Hardigan as well.
Yep, real walk of shame moment going around the high side, popping out of the banking, out of that sweet groove in probably this circuit's most famous corner, the carousel. If you've paid your admission, you want to stay on that horse.
It's definitely the most famous, not only corner, most famous section of the track. It's one that everyone seems to remember from their earliest moments of racing on this track.
When you were, doing Gran Turismo on PlayStation 2 and you made it far enough around the lap to be like, oh, there it is. What a moment. What a thrill for a 7-year-old.
I do remember it not only from PS2, I remember it from PS1. GT2. I remember playing, wearing that game out. This is a cool part of the track here too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it here. From Hoacht around to Flansgarten, it just seems to be corner after corner and some pretty flowing high-speed sections, sort of fourth gear, fifth gear, none of it flat out, but none of it particularly stop-start or cumbersome either. Part of the track that if you get it right, really, really does bring a rewarding feeling, but it's tough when you're right up behind the rear wing of someone else and you can't get that flow and that rhythm. They've worked their way mainly out of it and then towards the Schwalbenstrand, the little carousel, and then onto the Dodingerhöhe, the longest straight part of road. And really the sort of palate cleanser to the part of the track you've been in up until that point. Finally, it's straight and it's full throttle.
And that'll be where we're going to see a big advantage for the Astons, isn't it? They're going to really break away at that point. So a bit of a shuffle in the order, but the front three and the Mercedes, they've broken away. But Hilton Booth will gain some time without draft, you would think, as we get on to what can sometimes be the most relaxing part of the track.
Is it relaxing when you're side by side? That's where the Astons are, behind Gerard and Panton. Matt Hardigan changes lane. He's looking for the one that's flowing most freely on the freeway, and they're just starting to bear down on Stuart Brown. I reckon we're going to get a 3 wide here potentially as they approach the bridge. The Aston Martin's really hitting their stride, and indeed we get it 3 wide underneath the Bilstein Bridge, heading down towards the Tiergarten. Something gotta give here because it's a very long braking zone as the S's get tighter in towards the final corner of the lap. I think Gerard played that very well. Panton also wins a spot, and Brown and Hardigan might rue being in a Mercedes AMG just for a moment.
Taken 10 minutes for the paint start update, and I've been waiting for it, and now we can actually confirm that there is a new paint for guys that have been changing every week. They've gone Subway this week. Big meatball sub on the bonnet.
Gotta keep it fresh. So I'm told. So what has happened with 1 lap elapsed in this race? Jason Bent still leads his lead out to over 5 seconds. Behind is where it's starting to get more interesting. Jacques Swanepoel and Brady Buchanan still together, with Buchanan fishing for an opportunity if he can get it. Hilton Booth in the Aston Martin here starting to get hunted by Tim Harris.
And Sean Lacey's coming as well. He's not too far away from this as well, so don't discount him in this battle.
Harris has a look. He's got a little bit of overlap as they come into the Schumacher... not the Schumacher rest. It's a bit after that. But the move done by all accounts. And this is where you want to get your moves done if you can. It's the lowest risk part of the circuit to make an overtake. If you get it wrong the other 90% of the lap, well, we've seen that big high curbs and Armco is waiting for you. This is the widest part of the track and the most forgiving.
Lacey looking very, very strong on the brakes, but he's going to struggle unless he can get through. I tell you what, that's ambitious, but he's going to make it work. And I think Hilton Booth decided, I'm just going to have to back off here and let him have it.
Yeah, you can't deal with that level of crazy. But he did get a really good run through the sports car S's, heading towards that left-hander that brings them onto the Nordschleife, and you can see immediately how much more confidence through corners, through bumps, and into braking Sean Lacey has got, pulling some significant car lengths. I mean, a mustache like that means bravery for sure.
He's in a tuxedo as well. Mario helmet and a tuxedo around the Nordschleife. You've got to have confidence.
Ready for all occasions, I would say.
Definitely.
So we did get 2 cars through pit lane at the end of that lap, and they were the ones we very much expected of Mark Cochrane and Paul Longworth. Here is Longworth with that new livery. It's definitely a foot long, isn't it?
Great.
Toasted?
Only way you can have a meatball sub with cheese like that, isn't it?
I have to say, yeah. Have to say, meatball absolutely got to be toasted. If you're going ham or something else, maybe toast is not the way to go. So this is Brown, Hardigan, and Panton, isn't it? Indeed it is. As they head towards where The action was on lap 1. Cars get so light coming across the crest there. Schwedenkreuz car wants to walk out wide, and then immediately you're trying to pick your line to break in a straight line for this right-hander here of Arenberg. They work their way tidily through there. And of course, there's plenty of bumps at the apex in the braking zone through there as well. Because of course there is.
It's not the most smooth circuit out there, is it, this one? It's definitely has a very old school feel in multiple different ways with the bumps. Yeah, the very, very close arm coast.
Oh,
Brown hits the curb.
Stu Brown coming in too hot towards Adenauer Forst. Many a YouTube clip has been filmed there, and he's done it slightly differently, but gotten it over the curb, onto the grass, spun it, and gone nose first in. That's down to just a 6-inch as he took a big bite out of it. To the second and third. Swanepoel and Buchanan not able to match the pace of Jason Bentz, who has so much speed at this circuit. Buchanan well positioned to maybe jump with a shorter pit stop if he fancies it.
I think,
take a look again.
I think important's going to be how much fuel. Oh, that's a heavy hit, isn't it? I'll tell you what. Lucky for Greg Panton there at the back of that to not end up getting cleaned up. I think around the pit stop. Are you going to pit at the end of this lap, or are you going to pit at the end of the next lap? They're the two laps that everyone will pit, you would think. Obviously, the guys that have already pitted will have to do a second stop. But then from there, are you going to struggle with making it home on fuel? I don't know exactly the fuel burn and the fuel number, so it's not a 100% set in stone sealed position hitting at the end of this lap that you can make it home on those 3 laps.
Here's Buchanan with the slipstream. He's got 2 kilometers an hour extra right now as they go up the hill, looking towards the Bravery curve where you've just got to dab on the brakes a tiny bit potentially as you turn it in, maybe just lift a little bit. Not really a corner you ever go flat out. And then car gets light again over this crest. The GT4 cars really do, without the downforce of a GT3 car, get a bit wandery, a bit ponderous over the crests of this circuit. So you've got to kind of turn in before the crests. Otherwise, you might wash out wide. The carousel really want to let it work for you. Don't overdrive the car there.
And very easily overdrive the car, though, can't you? You can push way too hard and find yourself in all sorts of troubles. Patrick Panton's just got past Jason Muscat as well, so overtake there. It's strange how much of a gap has. It's
definitely a bit of grazing on the left of the car.
It's all good. Just backed out of it to make sure he was clear by the braking zone.
Okay. Through this back half of the circuit where the corners keep coming. I think that would be Vipperman there. One of the few places you actually can ride a little bit of the curbs because they're flat and then they're not after that. Cannon just gets up on a little bit of it. Really blind on the exit here. Buchanan carries way more speed than Swanepoel is willing to do. Cars get a little airborne here again as well. And then as soon as it grips up on the compression, you've got to be turning into the corner. So much speed here. Buchanan gets a little too much of the curb. It's all sort of 5th gear stuff. Car getting light again across the crests again. And Stefan Beloff S, you've worked your way through most of the forest at that point.
Yeah, you feel like you can get a little breath there, and now you've got to start to rework your brain back into, oh, we've got to go again mode because you've got the mini carousel there. Now
the course asks you to carry a lot of speed and really grips right up until the point you ask a little bit too much and it spits you out.
I always find that the mini carousel does spit you out a little bit more as well. Just how Buchanan just ran very, very wide there, run into the Donninger Ho. But I always found that the mini carousel you're more likely to get spat out of even than the actual carousel itself.
It unbanks a little earlier on the exit, and it asks you to carry a lot more speed than the carousel does, and it says, "I'll catch you," but only to a certain point.
Will we see Bentz come into the pits here? I'm going to say no. That's been proven wrong many times. Yeah, I'm right.
Let's clip that.
By one ever moment.
Well, all the other Mercedes staying out at this point. One wonders, what about Aston Martins? What about Porsches? Well, Tim Harris as the leading Aston Martin stays out. Sean Lacey in 5th as the best running Cayman. It's normally a pretty economical car as well. If the others are fine, he'll carry on again as well. So 3 laps minimum in this opening stint.
Answers our fuel question pretty easily. They'll make it home for sure on one stop when they come in at the end of the next lap.
But those with a bit of damage on, thinking about the pit entry, and if you haven't practiced it, don't brake too early, but then don't brake too late because it is a pretty slow pit lane speed limit. The Grand Prix layout of the Grand Prix circuit, 80 km/h pit lane speed limit, but the Nurburgring combined 24-hour layout, 60 km/h pit lane speed limit. So Muscat and Gerard are in just for the early stop, maybe just cover off a bit of damage as well. This is 2nd and 3rd, and they've kind of been like this since turn 2 of the opening lap. Swanepoel in 2nd, Buchanan sniffing around, but not with enough of an advantage to, press the issue, make a move, get down the inside, just waiting at the moment.
Brown's also come into the pits as well. Being his pit service. Hit in the wall. Not overly surprised by that. Cars look both these drivers, look very evenly matched, don't they? There's no one getting a real advantage at any point. I mean, they are in exactly the same car with exactly the same setup, but their driving styles are relatively similar as well, just the way that they're positioning the car through the corner, and a couple of missed apexes here and there, but both are driving relatively smooth as well.
Now think about this. Last lap, Jason Bentz, 8-minute 52. These two drivers on screen, 8-minute 56, 8-minute 56. Tim Harris in some clean air in that Aston Martin in 4th, 8-minute 52. If he hadn't gone off track somewhere, it would have been the fastest lap of the race. So Harris in 4th, suddenly with a massive turn of speed, and he's going to catch these two guys by halfway around this lap, if not earlier, at the rate that he's got.
See, Tim Harris closing in, remembering that he was running in Pro-Am, running in the AM category earlier in the season, but has decided to jump back into Pass 2. Drivers this year were allowed to do that with the change to GT4. Been a cool addition to the series. I think running the GT4 for this Pass 2 has been really, really cool, and a cool change that they've done in AusPass for Season 9.
So now just 2 seconds behind these guys. Tim Harris is really catching them rapidly. Again, faster than Jason Bentz, who looks very, very confident in the lead of this one, but started out of 7th place on the grid, and, well, you lose one lap not being able to pass, and suddenly you do find yourself 10 seconds, 15 seconds away from the lead on a circuit like this. Oh, was there a change behind?
Close.
Gowans got past Hilton Booth 6th and 7th there.
Straightforward overtake. Oh. Great run for Hilton Booth, and realises in the end, I might as well give up the spot. No point fighting too hard. Gowans now into the top 6.
Gowans, no qualifying time. Hilton Booth qualified 4th. 4 cars had qualifying time, so a couple of drivers getting their way around him at this point in the race, and some of those drivers sort of with no qualifying time that probably should have had one, working their way forwards, like Tim Harris, like Sean Lacey, now like Douglas Gowans. always want to lock up an inside tyre as the track drops away right at the turn-in point there at Verseifen, which is German for Verseifen. I don't know, it means something. Tim Harris is just sneaking his way into podium contention and into this fight at the moment. And this should be a strong section of track for the car as well. Heading into Bergwerk, if you just hook that little bit of banking, get the exit all the way up the hill, should be Aston Martin territory. And looking at the gap, and it starts coming down.
Started at, 1.7 when we put the graphic up on screen, already down to 1.4, so he's definitely closing in and closing in.
And Buchanan has the slipstream ahead of him as well. So without that, it'd be much, much closer as well.
Well, now you look, the difference that Buchanan's getting, now he's probably getting a slight little bit of slipstream as well. He's closing in really quick now. And what, 0.6 of a second, 0.5 of a second since we started looking, so definitely closing that gap down. By the time they exit the pit lane, it's going to be incredibly close.
Yeah, here comes the locked-on Aston. Photographer's delight at the carousel. Brake, pitch it in. A little bit of pavement, a little bit of concrete, and chuck yourself out of the exit with as much speed as you can. Tim Harris timed his exit from the Gravitron pretty well. Now we're going to see a different kind of getting spat out. Just a little wide on the way in. The grass disrupts the braking performance and the speed just carries through.
Rad's parked the car after that, unfortunately. He's damaged to continue on the lap, so brought it in. He'll get it repaired and get back out there, but long tow time when you make those mistakes at this track.
Pulling up some sector times because there's a lot of sectors around here.
I haven't got a
couple
big
purple
screen
sectors. No, my screen's not big enough either, but when they're layered on top of each other and one of them's purple, I can tell one of them's purple, and that Tim Harris has been flying along on this lap, still just building more confidence, finding more speed, right with second, third, and fourth, as we expect them to probably have to pit at the end of this lap. He's brought himself well and truly into contention here.
Definitely has. He's well and truly in for a podium now. Started in 7th as one of the top drivers that did not do a qualifying run, or not get a qualifying lap in. So now finding himself up towards the point end. I don't think he'll be able to close that gap down to Bence unless Bence has a mistake, but I think that second place is well and truly on here.
He will be... Oh, Swanepoel's off the road. He's gone in too hot at Schwalbenschwanz. Blocks the way at the little carousel. Buchanan's all over him. Harris will get a run at both of them as they approach the Dottingerhor. And for the first time, we've seen a bit of a mistake from Swanepoel. And we're seeing Buchanan try to get in there. Almost another one from Swanepoel as he comes across the crest at Galgenkopf onto the Dottingerhor. Nothing to separate second, third, and fourth on what we expect to be an in-lap. Can the Aston Martin get two in one straight? Homing in on Brady Buchanan, pulling out of that slipstream. Buchanan stays in line, but soon will have to make a decision, and he's getting boxed in, having that decision made for him by Tim Harris, who gets 1-2 Mercedes-Benz down the Dottingerhor like a Red Bull F1 car with the DRS open.
Absolutely brilliant from Harris to get that move done, and Buchanan, I'm surprised he didn't try to get across and block Harris a little earlier, but obviously did not. Bence is in the pit lane. About to see everyone drive on in while they're making their pit stops. We'll quickly look at a replay of that error.
Who attacks the pit entry the most? Not Swanepoel. It's definitely Tim Harris. Brady Buchanan. He'll come into pit lane now. Fuel tank's running on empty. This is Swanepoel after the Stefan Belloff S. He's coming into Schwalbenschwanz here, and in the left-hander, it just washes out, gets him the wrong side of that curb, jumps up onto the gravel, and then he finds himself under an immense amount of pressure at the worst part of the circuit heading onto the Dottingerhor.
Could have very easily lost all of that time and position at that point there as Bence is away 42 seconds in the lane. That's about average of what we would expect. Swanepoel, Buchanan, Harris in, as we said. Lacey, Gowans, and Booth are also in. Harris is away. Short stop of the lot. He is now a bit of a mission. See if he can close down 10 seconds to the race leader. He's gained a lot of time in that pit stop, about, what, 3.5 seconds?
Yeah, 3.5, 4. It's gone from 14 seconds behind the leader to he's shaking out at about 10.5 seconds. So Tim Harris, yeah, he's managed to match Jason Bentz's pace. No one else has gotten close, but he's not been able to demonstrate that he can take a second, 2 seconds, or any more out of Bentz's pace. Both of them with a best lap of about 8:52.
Finish line when they came into the pits was 13.9 seconds. Yeah, gained 3.5 seconds for sure. Is he too short on fuel though? That's probably the question that we then need to ask. Has he put enough fuel in the car?
That'll be a great question to ask after they take the white flag. Definitely 2 more, because you see 11 minutes on the clock, doing approximately 9-minute lap times. There will be probably 2 or 3 minutes left on the clock when they come around next time and take a white flag. So Bence leads the way. Tim Harris, he didn't need to jump them in the pit stop. He jumped them on the track right before those pit stops. Swanepoel and Buchanan right back as they were, but now 3rd and 4th. A longish stop for Sean Lacey, so he's nowhere near them now, but still 5th, just ahead of Douglas Gowans and Hilton Booth. Jason Muscat stopped after 2 laps. Only took 11 seconds of fuel, so a question mark there if Muscat's going to make it to the end without an extra stop, because he is even shorter than Tim Harris. And then Matt Hardigan definitely expecting to need to pit again, because I see an incredibly short stop there from Hardigan, like it was an error potentially.
Yeah, I think he's really short-filled the car. Unless he's been absolutely magical on the throttle pedal, I don't see how he makes it home here. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things do happen at this. Or strange things. Just my speaking is really good tonight, isn't it? The English language is not my friend at the moment. Sleep deprivation is not fun. Don't do it.
I think we owe Netflix royalties if you describe it as Stranger Things.
That's correct. Never seen the show though.
No, neither. In fact, I'm such a contrarian. The more people talk about a television series, the less I want to watch it.
100% the same. I've still never seen the movie Titanic because people say it's the best movie ever. Makes me not want to see it.
We would have a horrible, horrible book club because no one would take any of the recommendations or read any of it.
Isn't it funny that I used to work in a shop that sold movies?
One with a room behind a curtain at the back, or?
No.
Okay.
I worked in a big yellow building.
Okay. I'm looking at this lead gap, right? Ebbing and flowing a tiny bit, but on this outlap, I think Harris has taken about another half a second or so. You're going to need more than that to get close. You're going to need a lot more pace than that to get close enough to really put pressure on Bence or force an error. But definitely looking now, as it's all shook out, like Harris has got maybe one of the quicker cars, maybe one of the most confident drivers around this circuit. It is one of the tracks where iRacing means less. Some people are just special around here. They've got a little bit of ringmeister gene in them. And, you know, some drivers, amazing at other circuits, just always come to grief here. Some drivers, a bit plodder anywhere else. And the Nordschleife just ignites something in them that other tracks don't.
I think the challenge of the length of the track is what does motivate some.
Oh, Harris really pushing on. Look at that.
Well, cameraman
all
had a brown
over the
curb
there. And the painted concrete at the corner that's named after the town that's just there that I can't remember.
Don't ask me. I'm hopeless at remembering this track's corner names. I remember one.
Oh, which one's that?
The hairpin.
Okay. No Sabina Schmidt's curve?
Nah.
Oh, shame.
That I'm hopeless. Schumacher S, obviously. The hairpin's now no longer the hairpin. The Dunlop hairpin in real life. Oh. Had a sponsor change to a different tyre company?
Maybe?
The blue one? One that gives out the stars to the restaurant. Cool.
Oh, okay. The one with the big, jolly, inflatable fellow.
One that people think I'm a lookalike of.
Really? Oh, that's rude of them.
Right.
Bonjour, Monsieur Bibendum.
Gap didn't close anywhere near as much down the straight as I was expecting. 100% power for Tim Harris there. So maybe that gap that he closed up previously was purely draft as opposed to anything else, because it's still around 10 and a quarter seconds.
Because it's been killing me. I looked it up. The corner's bright side.
One's out the hairpin.
No, where Harris
where it was.
went out wide.
Did you look at the hairpin though? How's that changed? I believe it is now the Michelin hairpin.
I'm only looking at Google Maps here. It doesn't have it.
Oh, you're looking at this.
Well, this is a different kind of hairpin because it's a carousel. It's a bit tighter. It's a bit more banked. I mean, the Grand Prix circuit hairpin is meant to actually be a little bit of a tribute to the one on the Nordschleife. Panton is all over Hardigan, who we believe is short on fuel. In fact, we believe Musket to be short on fuel too as well. So Panton, 10th here. He's definitely got a bit of race pace and more fuel than the drivers in front, who are a little iffy, a little how you going on it.
Website, it's brought it up as the German version instead of the English. Not know my.
Look for an English flag and the letters EN. Oh, good. Oh, Panton all across that gravel as well as he follows Musket and Hardigan through the twisty parts of the lap here. It's Brunchen and Ice Curve before they come to start of Flunsgarten.
And confirm
Musket a little offline.
I was right and I was wrong at the same time. No longer the Dunlop hairpin. Dunlop. Also a blue branded tyre company.
Is it the one that has the awesome blue and green gradient livery?
No, it's not a Falcon. It's Goodyear Curve now. Panton runs wide.
Well, it's all the same thing actually, because it's just a rebrand of that which brand they're using. Dunlop, actually the namesakes of my fifth favorite minor league baseball team, the Akron Rubber Ducks, where Goodyear Tire Company is headquartered. So the baseball team's named after them. The Rubber Ducks. Buchanan, in pursuit of a podium, wipes the Mercedes across the Armco at Vipperman.
A pretty heavy hit with there.
Still in fourth place at the moment, but no, he's parked it and towed it, has Brady Buchanan. With the damage too severe, Jacques Swanepoel's grip on third place grows stronger, and Sean Lacey will move up a spot into fourth. As Musket and Hardigan down the Sördingerhöhe. Actually, Buchanan would be in the pit lane.
Might come out with these guys.
Yeah, where he comes out. A really quick stop from him there, actually. Lacey has gotten past. Gowans looks like he'll get him, and here's the extra second pit stops from the drivers we were really worried about in Muscat and Hardigan. Panton goes through into 8th. Gowans got Brady Buchanan. He rejoins the race in 6th. It is the final lap. One more tour of the Grand Prix layout and the Nordschleife for Simrigs.com, Oz Pro-Am, and the Past 2 Championship in the GT4 cars, with still another Enduro for GT3 to come tonight. Panton has found a problem at the Tiergarten.
Well, I've made plenty of an error at that spot, so no surprise to see someone have an error there. Rejoin Brown is just past both Muscat and Hardigan. Pit lane, we're having a very, very long stop here, so I'm wondering if they were both speeding in the pit lane as they were coming in.
No way, they were both so cautious so early on the brakes on their way in. Is it?
They're even filling the car just to make sure that they're not running out on this one.
Yeah, you're not going to go a lap down on this layout either. Here is the race leading Jason Bentz, just managing that 10-second lead over Tim Harris. And through the pit stop in the outlap, we can see now that Harris did take 3.5 seconds out of it. But since then, most of that was with the pit stop. It's really been stable at sort of just give or take that 10 seconds plus or minus half a second.
Yeah.
Because, of course, with a layout this long, there will be, parts of the lap where Bentz might pull half a second out and then Harris get that half a second back elsewhere, especially as they're in different models of car as well.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about this track, isn't it? That no matter what car you're in, strengths and weaknesses definitely even the track out as you progress through it. So I think it's always a really cool leveler of a circuit. It's such a fun to lap at, to race at.
It is a bit like stitching 3 other circuits together, and you get a bit of everything. You get so many corners, so many different types of corner.
You're right. It definitely has a bit of everything. It's got the modern as well of the F1 circuit. That was close for Bentz there. And then you've got the traditional old school track here. Officially, the clock hit 0, so we are now officially on the final lap of the race. Jason Muscat's just run into dramas, though.
Gee, most of them were so good on lap 1, and just as it goes on, drivers keep just getting bitten by this track, by the Nordschleife. And for Muscat, it's actually on the GP layout here. He carries a little too much speed through the sports car S's. Rear steps out, and then a bit of curb helps him around as well. Gowans now finds some Armco. Winding back to Muscat, though, I wouldn't be surprised if he did take tyres, and it's the cold tyres that bit him. For Douglas Gowans, no such excuse from, would have been 5th on the road here. Yeah, because Buchanan right in behind him after that second stop, coming up the hill through the foxhole to Ardnauer Forst. You carry big commitment here, and you've carried too much in for Gowans, and he has a hard lick. Now, Patrick Pountain's found the wall. Oh, dear.
Oh, he's got huge damage at that front right-hand wheel, isn't he? Track, he's heavy damage, so going to try and push on and bring the car back to the pits, but I don't know how he's going to do it.
So where is this? I think it's where we had a sharp intake of breath with Jason Bentz, but that is way further out. You are not stopping that. That's bordering on a replay of who else did
right
it?
At the start.
Yeah.
It's worse though. Stay on the replay here. Right hand not wanted. Struggle is to a left hand corner. Right on cue. Bang.
Yeah, that next sequence of corners is hit, miss, but it just became hit, unfortunately. Final lap, and in the back half of the lap, Bentz The Nurburgring has been his playground today, with the pole position, walking away from the field on that opening lap. Looks to have done his pit stop to perfection as well. Still leads by 9 seconds on the final lap. Tim Harris has had a bit of speed in his pocket, but the lack of qualifying and his slow progress through the field initially on the first 2 laps have really taken away the opportunity to challenge in the back half of the race.
A little bit of what might have been if he had been able to put in a qualifying lap and even start beside Bentz. It would have been a very, very interesting race, but just lost that ground at the start when he was trying to shuffle his way through the field. And then obviously we're still not 100% sure whether he's got enough fuel to make it, but you would think at this point he should be okay. But Bentz, we would also gather, well and truly okay, and just has to drive a controlled race from here to get it home for the win. Usually if you got a 10-second lead at this point, you can start to relax a tiny little bit.
I just had a look at Tim Harris's qualifying attempt, and it's that sports car chicane right at the end of the GP circuit. He's got an off track there, never even made it to the Nordschleife on his qualifying attempt. Gave it too many biscuits, too much aggression too early without the confidence or the tyre temperature, and that meant no qualifying time from him with that little mistake. And that's really been the biggest thing to separate him and Jason Bentz.
It's done almost a perfect race here, hasn't he? He's put it on pole, fastest lap of the race. Doesn't look like that'll be challenged. And now just cruising on home to victory. What will be a very, very impressive one for him.
Got to ask yourself, between the top 3 in the championship going into this, Sam Muir, Seth Brown, and Richard Mayer, where are they?
Yeah, not a great night if you're in the championship contenders.
I got to vote your biggest winner on that. Sean Lacey, 4th in the championship, 4th on the road. Could very well look like championship leader at the end of this, but Jason Bentz looks very much like a ringmeister in Pass 2 in the GT4 cars, with the pole, leading every lap and bringing it home 10 seconds clear in his Mercedes-AMG GT4, and setting the fastest lap to finish it off. Tim Harris gets to the line, and he will take that fastest lap away with an 8:50.2, but it all comes a little too late.
Got the gap down to 9.4 in the end. Yeah, that qualifying would have been a huge difference maker and potentially could have won him the race. So Monopole finishes 3rd, and Sean Lacey, as you said, will cross the line likely in 4th. He's just got to get through final complex of corners, which are a lot more difficult than you think, especially after you've had that little bit of a break than the Dottinger Her.
Yeah, it's bouncy and one line in the treacherous braking zone on the way in there as well. Lacey will get to the finish line. It takes a long while for everyone to get around to the checkered flag here, because you can be 4 minutes behind the leader and still on the lead lap, which would never happen anywhere else, not even Sebring, Road America, Bathurst.
Gerard's not quite 4 minutes behind the leader.
He's in Whipperman at the moment, misses that 3rd apex, which is the best one to hit because it's got no curb on it and you can get all across the concrete. And he's out wide there. Oh, save it, son. Yeah, that's right. Just give it a little kiss. Just don't go nose in or tail in. Just a little bit.
It is a little bit damaged, but I think he's going to make it home okay. At least I hope. Remember, he did have to tow after hitting the wall pretty hard a few laps a couple of minutes ago. Has had a bit of a struggle, but I think to finish the race here at Nords is an achievement all in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to practice it, like you said, it's like practicing 3 circuits stuck together. It's just so much to remember, so much to work out. But it's just about locked in that Jason Bentz comes away with the win. Tim Harris and Jacques Swanepoel are 2nd and 3rd. Sean Lacey in 4th. A good result for his championship. And then Buchanan, Hilton Booth, Stu Brown, Greg Panson, Matt Hardigan. I think Douglas Gowans is actually going to end up in 12th because he's parked it. We're still waiting on Paul Longworth and Matthew Gerard to come around, who are going to usurp Gowans, and Gowans will end up most likely in 12th, still ahead of Jason Muscat, Patrick Panson, and Mark Cochran. So a big winner on this final lap, Matthew Gerard, who started the lap 14th, is actually going to end up 11th as he passes some parked up cars.
We give away $20 as well, thanks to Super Cheap Auto. I've put forward my suggestion. I'll leave it for you to decide what you think, but I reckon we're probably going to be on the same page.
Yep, I'm in agreement, and I can show my working, which is I would have said Tim Harris made it super, going from 7th to 2nd, if he'd qualified 7th, but with no qualifying time. I think I can give that to him. I think you've got to give it to Bentz, a picture of perfection and consistency around a circuit that makes it damn near impossible to have either. So thanks to our friends at Super Cheap Auto, the Make It Super award goes to Jason Bentz, and he will be getting a $20 Super Cheap Auto voucher to spend as he pleases. And it's a good chance he's not too far from a store that could help him out either.
Sent little prize. Thanks to Super Cheap Auto as well for their support. Go on. You can have interviews if you like.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Ben's not around to say g'day, but why not? 2nd place, Tim Harris. Next time you're here at the Nordschleife on the combined circuit, gonna give that sports car S's a little more respect?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, so that was probably on me, but it made it a bit of fun. Got a little bit probably held up on the first lap, so it'd be interesting to look at some numbers and work out what could have happened there. I think Jason was just probably too quick in the corners for me, but had a bit of straight line handling, so yeah, it is what it is, but no, good fun, but would have been better to probably race Jace on track there.
GT4s look a little floaty, bit of a handful, not as much grip or downforce as you get from some other cars.
That's the attraction of them. I think they're actually probably more fun than a GT3 in some instances. So yeah, that's why I thought I'd jump in tonight and jump in my Simrigs Exodus rig and try and see if I could make it super.
Can you say anything about Index Designs in a Echuca Toyota while you're at it?
Well, funnily enough, I was actually looking at Hiluxes. So, yeah, like obviously it's a bit of a drive from Queensland to Echuca in rural Victoria, but if you really want, well, not if you really want, if you want a Toyota, I think that's where I'll be shopping for one. And, you know, hey, I'd probably get it wrapped from some groovy stickers from Index Designs. I think that would be the way you'd do it.
Beautiful. Congrats on a podium at the most challenging racetrack in the world, and look forward to seeing you later on in later rounds.
No worries, mate. Thanks for the call, guys. You guys just did amazing tonight.
Tim Harris might have been listening to us in the car, potentially, or he's just going to butter us up just in case. We've got one other driver, Jacques Swanepoel, finished in 3rd. Congrats.
Cheers. Yeah, it took me all of 8 rounds to get back to a podium.
Tell us about that fight then between yourself and Brady Buchanan, because you seemed almost inseparable for what could have been 100 kilometers.
Yeah, it felt that way. I just couldn't get him to get out on my toe. It was such a battle because I initially had the pace, but you know, through the last sectors, he always caught up in that using a bit of toe. So was a good battle. Unfortunately, I think he had a meeting with Barry R. But yeah, it was a good race up to that point. And then Mr. Harris came and just flew past us in that Vantage.
That's never a meeting you ask for. It's one that gets put in your schedule and you're forced to attend. But yeah, overall, your feelings with the Nordschleife, because it's a unique beast compared to anywhere else that you can go racing.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I was just trying to look after the car and look after the tires. Here you battle yourself more than you usually battle the competition. So I took the line of just bring the car home wherever we end up, and if we do get into close battles, just keep it as clean, because you can't win here with a bent car. So it's definitely one of those tracks that you need to be more careful than usual.
Well, congrats. 6th in the championship on your way in, and you've probably leaped a couple drivers with that consistent performance.
Yeah, I've had a few unlucky weeks where I just made stupid mistakes on cold tires, but it's my first season in the car, so I'm getting to grips with it, and I think we'll be only going upwards and forwards from here.
Look forward to seeing it. Congrats, and best of luck rest of the championship.
Cheers, mate. Next week, my favourite track.
Go Jacques Swanepoel joining us after his 3rd place finish. Well, it's time now to really turn up the action, and Stu Brown joins us for Pro-Am in the simrigs.com Pro-Am Sim Series. We're looking forward to a little more horsepower, a little more speed, a little more commitment around the Nordschleife.
Yeah, it's a hard track in those GT4 cars that makes you work for it. But looking forward to this one. Horsepower difference very much felt, and I think there's going to be some struggling here today as well. So jumping through our group, we've got Bo Albert and Lachlan Capel there off row 3. Brock Kelly and Hamish Cleland off row 4. To move back through this big field. Jeff Connell a little bit further back than he'll like in the Porsche in row 5, 9th position, with Thomas Leprake next to him. So we continue to move on. Nick Wood and Adam Funslow jumping in there. Sam Lehman and Christopher Hent off row... what do you got there? Row 7. Row 8 is Tyson Broad with Richard Brookfield. One of the iLake Motorsport cars. David Bass and Steve Tonkin. Jumping into row 9. Running out the top 10 rows is Jeff Wang and Colin Schwerk. Chu Kang and Ben Jeffrey off row 11. And Jordan Peter and Ben Pollock off row 12. To move back through this big field, we've got for this race tonight Harry Lawrence and Bradley Stanley. Out of 26, Brennan Grosh and Adam Jepson out of 27 and P28. And that rounds out our grid for the Exodus Racing Simrigs.com journey through the Green Hell. It is going to be a challenging race for these drivers, those straight sections, as I mentioned. Really going to be emphasised as we have a look through the BOP. The Audi got a little bit hamstrung after last week with no change in the BMW. The Ferrari lost some power too, which will be music to the ears of the Porsche and Lamborghini drivers. Lamborghini grabbing a little bit of power back. Porsche staying where it was, and the AMG now the only car with its full noise, so look out for those in the Merc to see if they can make good here around what would probably be their home track, close enough to their home track. So
yeah, and again, another occasion where qualifying has looked very, very important. A large chunk of the tail of the field without a qualifying time, and you spend one lap in that traffic, that is bordering on 20% of the race almost. 60 minutes should probably give us somewhere around 8 laps. It should give us 2 pit stops, and we're awaiting the green flag, awaiting starters orders with a large field of GT3s for this Enduro round of Simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series. Great front row once again. Turner in the Brabham Esports car up there with the inside line in towards turn number 1 as they get racing. You've still got to give a lot of respect on the GP circuit on lap 1. Bo Albert in the Ferrari already looking to challenge down the inside if he can, but it's a huge stop into a tight corner. 3 wide can end in tears quickly through this switchback. Pinch points abound at the front of the field through just tidily. 98% horsepower on this Ferrari, still looking to move forward.
Yeah, it looked like Jeff Connor got a little bit of a squeeze there on that switchback, but he's made it work. That Brabham out in front. We've got John Merritt and Matt Bailey there, 2 wide down through the GP circuit. This is the bit where these cars will probably be their weakest across this entire lap. So they'll just be looking to make it through here, get some warmth into those tyres in these tricky opening lap conditions. Just making sure that they can survive for that first run. It is a long way back on the back of a tow truck here, particularly this early on in such a long race. So here it's about conserving and making sure that you can get through. As we say that, we're going to look there at the 27 of Tyson Broad going side by side with Sam Lehman. So he's not going to die wandering early in this race. Track position, Jeff Connell here just trying to make his way back through in that Porsche. It's going to be really important for him to maintain the drag, or maintain, I should say, the draft in that Porsche, particularly with these long straights coming up and that horsepower deficiency that Porsche's got. So there's plenty to play out here, of course. Hit strategy,
On pre-circuit done, about to turn onto the Nordschleifer, and that's when passing gets more difficult. Got a bit of movement going on here, getting bullied a little bit is Jeff Connell, as Funslow gets a couple spots there at one of the last strong opportunities, and Connell gets a big bite of the curb, heading down into the Hudson back.
Very well to save it there. That screen that you can see inside the car just showing Funslow there all over the back of him. To be a little bit distracting if you're driving. Maybe that caught his eye on the turn. He's just managed to make his way out of it now. This is where the Porsche should be relatively comfortable through this section. Connell will be looking to create some space before that long run up over the crest. Oh no, he's got one again.
He's gone wide, cut the corner, and under all sorts of pressure from the field behind, with Sam Lehman, Christopher Henn, David Baz all looking to swallow him up. And Jeff Connell's got a black flag. Did he get a slowdown and not clear it somewhere along the line? He's in a really, really tough spot, losing positions, failing to serve a slowdown, which can be so brutal on these opening laps.
Yeah, and now it's very much the meat and the sandwich between Lehman and Henn as he looks to get down the inside here. Important to get the car pulled up there. It's a long way off into that dirt if you make a mistake, and the car gets a little light as you approach the braking zone there too, so tough one to get right on cold tyres, but everyone looking like they're doing a good job in getting their way through as they run down the hill. To have my knowledge of the corners only in the car, not by name, but it is challenging down through here. It's very, very fast. The car's moving right up to top speed and then braking all the way down to second gear to make the turn back through here, through a bus stop of such. What I'd probably call it. You probably know the name, but anyway.
I'd call it Adenauer forced, personally. Oh, Lehman almost Adenauer forced off the road as he went side by side with Jeff Connell. But Connell very, very aggressively trying to keep his positions at this point. I suspect he's driving quite angry at the moment.
Yeah, again, the Porsche should be relatively comfortable through here. It's just going to get dominated on the run up the hill, I think, with the Merc, with Sam Lehman behind the wheel, with that extra horsepower advantage that it's got. The Audi keeping pace with it too. So Connell's going to want to gap as much as he can. It looks like he's working on it too. As we head down towards town. So the exit's going to be important for that first run up the hill. Looks like the field's getting through relatively cleanly everywhere else back through the Pro and Am mixture that we've ended up with as a consequence of that qualifying outcome.
Yeah, longer qualifying session for these drivers meant they got 2 attempts at a flying lap, and that means most of the field does have a qualifying time, but those without, Harry Lawrence, Brady Stanley, Brandon Grosh, Adam Jepson, definitely seeing Harry Lawrence maybe getting buried in this pack a little bit. He might have been further up were it not for that. And certainly it leaves the possibility that drivers might have a mistake on their first lap, and then on their second lap really need to tiptoe it, because there are a few drivers we know are good drivers, but their qualifying pace just not otherwise where we would have expected. No change in the whole overall top 10 from where they qualified though, but it could start to happen. Bo Albert under some pressure in the horsepower sections now from Scott Hasler in the BMW. Capel in the Lamborghini, and Brock Kelly not too far behind either. Where is the strength for that Ferrari, if not in a straight line?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Generally a pretty well balanced car, but just looking like it hasn't quite found its advantage yet. So we'll see if that emerges. Maybe to look after its tyres a little bit better. Maybe be slightly better on the fuel. That would be unusual, but we'll see. Look, Thomas Laprake, our current highest place AM driver, currently P9 outright. Just maintaining just over a second, or just under a second over Nick Wood. Let's have a look at a replay here.
Oh, this is just your jump cam, I think, on the opening lap. Luke Turner in the lead, front wheels off. Merritt, or is it all four? I reckon that's almost all four for the BMW.
Oh, the Ferrari also too.
A little bit of slipstream doesn't hurt because you get less downforce and you're going faster. Yeah, that's definitely front wheels off for almost everyone.
You can certainly tell the cars that need to go on a diet versus those that don't. BMW just struggling to get off the ground a little bit there, that big thing that they've put together. And with the Lamborghini, a fantastic camera angle there for us to have a look at. Speaking of camera angles, jumping back on board now with our lead two. Luke Turner and John Merritt. Luke Turner in that distinctive Brabham Motorsport livery. Background there, we've had Adam Jepson may have had an off as well.
Yep, he has.
Around.
No one hit him, but it got mighty close. Sight lines are very much at a premium in this part of the track.
Yeah, it is a hit and hope. Unfortunately, when you hit something, you hope that you don't get hit again.
Take a look at it. This is exit of Vipperman, so going into the next bit, just gets out wide onto the grass. Knows that those other drivers are there, doesn't want to rejoin into them, but the icy grass has different ideas. I think he would have turned back onto the pavement earlier if those other drivers weren't there.
He did a good job overall. Some luck, but some good job as well. Harry Lawrence here looking to make his way through the second carousel. He runs towards the back straight to complete his lap.
He's dropped back a couple. Wang and Schwecke have gotten past him because they're going, oh, the rear just lets go. Coming into Schwalbenschwanz and might just kissed the curb a little bit. On the Dottingerhor at high speed, it brings the cars and the drivers all back together, and it looks like Kelly has gotten past Capel.
He has. That'll be that horsepower advantage of that BMW over the Lamborghini. So those couple of drivers that have had issues, you're going to make a stop this lap, no doubt, to take a repair. It's too long a lap to get around here without any damage, without damage on your car. So I'll be looking to get that fixed. How will that change their pit strategy to get through this hour feature race?
Jeff Connell has to stop to serve that black flag, but everyone else so far continuing on, and still very little to separate your leaders and all these other battle packs all through the fields with passing at a premium.
So Connell serving that now, dropping down the listing as we're back into the GP circuit for our second lap here. Is Luke Turner in the lead. He's got half a second on John Merritt. Taking a look here at Connell. What have you got there? 40 seconds? A minute?
Well, just a black flag would be a drive-through normally, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm not sure. He might have. Well, he parked it and got out.
I was actually wondering if he was able to serve it and fuel.
Well, when you do, it just then adds the 40-second hold. So you're at most circuits, I think here included, better off driving through and then coming back for your service.
Yeah, because he's definitely going to have to make another stop. There's no question about that, but he probably won't get the way home, albeit Jeff Connell can save fuel with the best of them. So we'll see. Still in pit lane now.
In his wildest, most fantastical dreams, Ross Rizzo dreams he's Jeff Connell.
Yeah, Ross Rizzo not bad at saving fuel either. It's always interesting with those two in this championship as to who could save the most. We always used to rumour that Ross Rizzo did have some sort of spare fuel tank in his sim. Seemed to get him across the line, but just a good driver as well. Not here this season. So having a look here at the battle.
No cheats. He's just that frugal.
100%. Yep. No, definitely not. Definitely no cheat codes there.
Very much in contrast to the rest of his lovely family.
So Albert here, just maintaining the pace ahead of Hassler, Kelly, and Capel. Capel in that Lambo that's a little bit hamstrung. But Albert and Hassler with Kelly not so much.
Kelly's the one looking strong here because Kelly's gotten past Capel, now really muscling Hassler, who's not able to keep up with Bo anymore, who seems to have found his rhythm. And the first time I ever stumbled across Mr. Bo Albert, it's because me and him were racing against each other here in the VLN series, as it was in 2017 or so. So he's done a lap or two around here, and I know because some of them I was watching him.
Yeah, and it's very much a place that you've got to just spend cubic time to get used to the track. So if he's done that, then he'll be confident here that he will be able to push. Of course, in our pro category, running that Ferrari, so
Kelly's looking for a mistake out of Hassler here, and he's almost got it as Hassler was a car width wide of the apex on the way into Adenauer Force. Got too much of the curb on the way out. Not a place you normally see overtaking, but if you can get your nose down the inside, you want to be on the inside. The outside's not the place to be, and Hassler almost gets a little bit of help as they all check up, and Lachlan Capel gets the shovel nose of the Lamborghini in there. But another position made from Brock Kelly makes him the only driver inside of the top 10 to have, from the grid, to have made any passes so far.
Yeah, he's doing really, really well. So now he'll set off. You can already see it sort of let him loose. That little knock from Capel would have just upset the BMW a little. But did well to just pull that up, not cause a spin. But now Capel's got a job to do here on Hassler if he is holding him up as well. But Kelly will set off. See if he can catch up to Bo Albert in the Ferrari. So that'll be an interesting one with that Ferrari dock, that half a percent of horsepower.
Whole percent, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe, yes.
I think it was on a hundo, and then it was 99 last week. It's 98 now.
Yeah, okay. So that'll make a big difference then with the Beamer. Not at full noise, but almost.
Yeah, Jay's got my back.
Gets you straight up there. The Beamer 99 there. The Ferrari now at 98, so...
Almost all of those you could tune your FM dial to as well.
I was going to say, probably known as the good all-rounder, the Ferrari. Not outright the fastest in horsepower, not the overall best in braking and handling, but it's going to notice that power difference this week.
I feel like the Mercedes is a decent car for the Nordschleife here, though, because you've got all these curbs, all of these bumps, and it's a pretty neutral layout with the front engine, but it's pretty far back in that big bonnet. So overall, relatively neutral, not going to get too upset by the bumps and the curbs and spin out on you, which then gives you that confidence to push like you can't really do consistently lap after lap in the twitchier cars. It's looking like a Turner and Merritt show at the moment. But between Bailey and Kelly, they got something worked out in those BMWs as well.
Yeah, we were having a chat just after the Class 2 race about how different the Merc feels around here this week to racing last week. So you're spot on with your comments there, Dave, about it. It was really, really settled around here. So just seeing plenty of curb usage here. But rides the curbs well and yeah, certainly does what it needs to do.
That's the wrong way, and you can't park there.
No,
Tyson Broad looking for the 3-point turn. That looks like Hoa Acht before Whipperman.
Did well to get it around there.
Hokkaichen? I was trying to read the sign. I think I was right.
Yeah, he dropped the wheel.
Skates that nasty curb on the entrance.
And there he goes. It's very close in the turnaround there as well. Only 3 100s. So we've got more action just up in front of these two.
Moment for David Baz. The rear stepped out on him, just as we were praising how stable the Mercedes should be. A couple drivers got him there. Here's Broad back on the road behind the Ferrari of Chu Kang, and Broad seems to know where the road goes a little better. But who can say where the road goes?
Just harassing as well there. as Pollock just equally loses track of where he was on the track and finds himself visiting those very expensive fences that line this track. As we're on the back straight now, on the run down to complete lap 2. We're on board with John Merritt here. The Chuka Toyota Pulse Mercedes-Benz, and he's trying to use that draft just to close up that little bit on Luke Turner in front. You can just see that gap visibly starting to close down. He's probably not going to get far enough up with the run, is he? Oh, he's going to have a look. He does. He has a big look. John Merritt gets it done down towards the braking zone.
I smell Turner looking at a fuel number and letting that one go, because this is always an interesting circuit for the fuel strategy, as Turner thinks he's got one more, but Merritt's got to stop, because it's always such a flip of a coin whether you can do an extra lap or not, and you never want to chance it if you're not confident around a over 20-kilometer lap. So there's a few drivers that carry on for one more, but a lot of drivers pitting, and a split in strategy from the drivers who were the front row of the grid. Turner, Albert, Cleland, Nick Wood continues from the AM class, but almost everyone else pitting right now.
I'm not sure if you picked that up as well, Dave. The last lap times between the people who pushed on: Luke Turner, 8:10.85, and Bo Albert in that Ferrari in 8:10.87. So there is a tissue between them in terms of the last time around. So they have done very well. Ferrari might be a little easier on the juice, but as you said, around a 20k track, there's a lot of saving to be made, as we've got side by side out of pit lane as well.
Big split of strategy. Merritt, 25-second stop, plays Hasler 8 seconds, Bailey 15 seconds. It's all over the shop what they've elected to do at the first of their 2 pit stops in this one, and Merritt finds himself behind Capel, Kelly, Bailey and Hasler, who've all stopped but might need to pay something back later on. I think we saw from your race in GT4 in Pass 2, track position can be pretty damn important here. You can get stuck behind someone for half a lap. Okay, that half a lap is 10 kilometers.
Yeah, absolutely, and it amounts to minutes overall, not just seconds. So definitely the play there, and Thomas Leprake was giving John Merritt the hurry up out of pit lane too. So it looked like there might have been a little bit of contact between them as well. So just interesting whether or not that's done any damage to the steering on the front of Leprake's car as they came out of pit lane.
Well, we knew who looked quick and who didn't for the first couple of laps, but it is a whole different ball game now. Surely it's got to be fuel only. Yeah, side by side at the exit. He's got the inside here. Does Merritt. He gets squeezed just an itty bit, but does not give up that room. Good racing.
Absolutely. There's no rules in the exit of pit lane other than you can't cross that line. So as long as you don't, it's open slather.
Kelly in that position now where he really wants around the 37 of Chu Kang, who hasn't stopped yet. Again, the Ferraris looking like they got big tanks, but Kelly, enormous amount of speed. You just can't pass here if the other guy doesn't roll over. So thinking about Flugplatz, that would be a brave place to try to pass, and he is going to force the BMW nose down the inside of the Ferrari. Room width for 2 cars, and at that point, Chu Kang maybe sees a little bit of the face of God and backs out.
It's very much one of those James Hunt kind of moments. If you're going to try and go 2x2 there, cars get light on the nose and you lose a little bit, get some understeer happening. You don't want to be on the outside.
Got to make sure the crotch belt is tight before one of those moves. Baz gets shuffled off the road just in front here. He rejoins on the outside of Arenberg, and behind now Kelly and Kang. Too much adventure for David Baz so far.
So Matt Bailey, according to my timesheet, is...
Sorry, I've mistaken Bailey and Kelly.
Yeah, no, the lead car that has pitted as well. So
So Luke Turner was the race leader. He stayed out 1 lap longer. Coming into Adenauer forced. It's bitten him. He's gone across the grass at low speed. Car won't stop there. Plops back onto the Armco. Onto the bitumen. Well, that's a different hard surface. So that really could hurt this overcut strategy from Luke Turner. Oh well, but now just 3 seconds behind him in the Ferrari. There's still a lot more going on for those drivers who did pit at the end of last lap and have found themselves amongst some traffic that hasn't stopped. Bailey is finally free and ahead of the others, with Scott Hazzler just behind him. Brock Kelly still with some work to do, sandwiched between Baz and Chu Kang. He's not getting past David Baz easy, who might get shoveled off the road for the second time in as many sectors at Verzeifen. They're paying for admission.
Turned and then turned back. It lost all his momentum. You can see here there's a traffic jam, and John Merritt, again, talking about that strategy. John Merritt caught up in this now, so this is not what he would have wanted, dropping into pit lane early. Have to navigate through this section of the track and try and make his way around a slower moving Ferrari. Just notice as well, I don't think Luke Turner got a slowdown for that little journey that he made, as Leprake makes a good move down here to what I call Yokohama. It's definitely not the name for it, but that's what I call it.
There's a Yokohama sign before every single corner around here, but that would be Bergwerk, which is German for quarry.
That is my braking marker at that particular turn. So we use that one there to make the run
Big
back
run
up the hill.
Up the hill here, and it's where the cars that have got the horsepower sit well, and I reckon ambitious little look from Merritt here, who knows that it's kind of do or die on his strategy. Taken a lot of fuel, ended up in a bunch of traffic, maybe just being helped by that mistake from Turner though, but he might not know it at this point.
Absolutely not. As we have a look here at Harry Lawrence in the Porsche, heading across the top of the hill, he's got in a little early there, and he's just grabbed the grass on the outside, and off he goes. Not able to pull it up.
Twice now, it's just looked like there's oil on his rear tires, that car is too pointy. Because he had a similar kind of problem with the rear, just letting go and the car spinning out on him last lap. Or lap 1. Time flies when you're having Nurburgring.
Absolutely.
More dramas for Baz and Chu Kang as the two of them are together, causing a bit of a traffic jam for Colin Schwecke, who's trying to get his Ferrari through. Now comes Ben Jeffrey and Adam Funslow, who's stopped in that Audi.
Oh, and they're again trying to just squeeze through there.
When do you ever go too wide through there?
Never, unless you have to. Which they did, but they got it done. But Baz here, just he's kind of the pinball wizard at the moment. Playing every bumper that he has to. Trying to get that Merc back around. So, unfortunate thing for him as well is he is yet to stop. So, he's going to have to do that as well as cop the downfall through those drivers who have already made their pit stops. So, a double whammy there for him.
Tell you what, BMW is also looking like a pretty good car to have this round, and definitely being helped along by some quality drivers. And you could tell in the last couple of laps here, as we've seen Brock Kelly make some moves. Oh, one of the Frog Leap juiced cars around at the little carousel, probably being spat out. And driver of Brandon Grosh has got to be so careful about when and how he tries to get that car around, because the field are zipping past and you've got to hold your breath.
He's done a remarkable job there with no vision whatsoever of anyone coming around behind him. I think David Bass has had another issue as well. Just while we're having a look at the replay here, as you said, just gets loose in the carousel.
Half a car width wide. You've got to be closer to the apex there. It's kind of high-sided it on the outside of the carousel and flung him around. Rest of the drivers that haven't stopped come in. So Turner, Albert Cleland with 35 minutes to go. Nick Wood as well. Dangerously close to halfway in this race when they're making their first stop. Also need another one out of Lehman and some others. Strategy shaping up to be pretty damn interesting in this one, because we still expect drivers like Merritt to carry on a lot longer. Going through towards the race lead potentially. So Turn is still just going to hold on from Albert. Albert going to be side by side with Hassler and Bailey as they go into turn 1 now. So it's pretty good for Scott Hassler and Matt Bailey for that first round of stops. But I note pretty short fuel from Hassler. Bailey should probably have the most at this point.
Trying to do the mental arithmetic here. Turner, 42-second stop in round figures in terms of pit lane transit time, with Merritt at 53. Just having a look at the traffic, it's 14 seconds now, so that Merritt has, with the longer stop still, Merritt has been penalised for that traffic that he's ended up in as a result of that stop. So it's just dropped a little bit further back than the pit lane transit times would suggest. So he's going to have a little bit of work to do in this back half of this race.
Don't think we ever got the points for Pro and Am going into this round. Certainly a lot to play for, as there was in Pass 2. Got first round of pit stops out of everyone on track now, and I float the question, is it the only round of pit stops for those drivers who extended an extra lap on the opening stint? Might be, might not be. Very easy for a race to go a little bit over the scheduled time here, and you complete one lap after the 60 minutes. That can end up being a 67-minute race somewhere like here. Jeff Connell, championship leader, but a black flag and a penalty on the opening lap of this race is not in contention. In fact, he runs dead last. Bo Albert, second in those pro points, running very convincingly in second on track at the moment. And Lachlan Capel, John Merritt, Scott Hasler, Brandon Levin, definitely between Connell and Albert at this point. It's looking like Albert could take the championship lead. In Am, Harry Lawrence with a lead, but this has also been a very, very tough track for him. And he is parked on pit lane in 26th outright and second last in class at the moment. Nick Wood, second in Am on the road at the moment, second in points. All to play for in both categories, and this is a real GT challenge here at this track for an hour.
And Sam Lehman doing well as well in this race, so he's looking to advance his championship, currently sitting in third. Trying to make his way up that list as well, so plenty still to play for at the top of both of these championships, with the championship leaders both out of the race. So good night for everyone else to try and make up that gap where they can. As we're having a look here at Brock Kelly, who is still putting the pressure on Hamish Cleland, both in BMWs, both doing a remarkable job.
Kelly was able to force a mistake out of Hassler earlier, so it's a part of the track that Kelly's got a bit of confidence, but Cleland not so inclined to run it deep in there.
Same paintwork, different outcome this lap around.
I was listening to a podcast interview of John Cleland just the other day. So if Hamish Cleland has half of that character, he's got a lot going on. It's a really good racing driver kind of name, especially if you're going for first.
Albeit tail shafts don't quite enjoy it as much, particularly not in Commodores. Driven by his namesake, Great Mountain, of course.
It's approaching the halfway time on the clock, but for the reasons I've pointed out, it's still a little bit after that was the real halfway point of the laps, because checkered flag always gets thrown after the time elapses, not before, which means you often need to complete the half of the lap remaining, or sometimes even the 3/4 of the lap remaining.
And I think we're going to be looking that way. Luke Turner now just halfway around this lap, so still got about 4 minutes to go to complete it.
At 8-minute laps, four laps would be 32 minutes. So I reckon 4 more from where we stand at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Working out the fuel numbers as well.
If there's more than 24 minutes on the clock when he gets to the checkered flag this time, then it's 4 more from there. give or take. Very, very rough commentator live on air numbers.
Yep, but we'll hold you to them. It's on the record.
Absolutely.
So, just depends on that fuel number. And can anyone save that little bit that they need? Will that make the difference? This battle here between Hassler and Bailey, one of the closer ones on track. Cleland and Kelly still together as well, as you can see.
So I'm scratching my chin at the moment. Luke Turner is setting purple sectors. Bo Albert is hardly setting personal bests. Scott Hassler is hardly setting personal bests. Matt Bailey with some purples. Brock Kelly with some personal bests. Hamish Cleland without. I think there's a pretty reasonable chance we've got a split in the top 6 here between drivers saving fuel and drivers not. I think Turner is not. I think Albert, Bailey, Cleland might be.
Yeah, there is a big time differential, isn't there? I hadn't seen that. Turner doing a good job at the front. Of course, that Ferrari, fueling-wise, a little quicker as well than the Merc, so there's that.
Hassler goes off the road. Brock Kelly goes up into 5th.
Got fatigue to worry about a little bit here as well. It's a long 60 minutes around this track. There's obviously you get the break down the back straight, but otherwise it is full concentration for a majority of the 8 minutes or so that they're getting around here in. So that will play a factor.
And it's a long 60 minutes for the reasons we've pointed out there. A 60-minute race can actually be a 68-minute race. So in towards Ice Curve. Oh, it just gets in a little too deep. Once you're the wrong side of that curve, you're on the grass. A very easy move right there for
Hamish Cleland.
Yeah.
Getting it done.
It's actually Matt Bailey on Scott
Sorry,
Hassler,
Matt
3rd and
Bailey.
4th.
We've literally got the
Yep.
two teammates front to back to front in the same cars.
Yep, just to keep us on our toes. You got John Merritt just in the backer shot there as well. Actually, I neglected to look at his sectors. Merritt, what do you got? Yeah, some purples, some personal bests, and a bit of bumper-to-bumper BMW action.
And while these
I
two
dare not
battles
guess which
help us-
cars.
No, absolutely not. It is Cleland and Kelly on screen, but as the two cars continue to fight as well, that helps Merritt out. So he'll be all for it.
No pit callers from up front except Scott Hassler. Hassler is in for his second stop. I did call him out as having the shorter fill the first time around. Only 8 seconds of fuel first time. Now he's going to go for some more. Merritt potentially took 25 seconds of fuel, though I'm not sure I buy that. Turner 14, Albert 14, Bailey 15 seconds of fuel. So depending on how much Hassler takes, we can guess if those other drivers have got enough to get to the end. So Hassler now past 10, past 12, looking closer to 25 seconds cumulative of fuel now against 14 for those other cars. So an 18-second second stop from Hassler. We might then need to expect 26 seconds or so total fuel required across this race, which John Merritt has been very, very close to, potentially.
He's just ripped out the fastest lap of the race by some margin too, at 8:07.57 for John Merritt last time around. So just based on that, at that 25-second stationary time for him, as you said, unlikely is
Off the road for Schwecke here at the
Yeah.
Tiergarten.
easy enough to do. Whether or not Merritt, surely not having enough to do one stop. .25 seconds stationary time. As we have a look out the back of Cleland now to Brock Kelly. And John Merritt should be closing in on them. Said he'll be enjoying that they're fighting. It'll help him to hold one another up. The gap now down to 1.9 seconds. But that, you can see it there.
Yeah, and Cleland's starting to wobble a little bit. Kelly's got the blowtorch on him and not making every apex perfectly, but also a mistake like that sees you get past at any other circuit. Here, the driver behind kind of just has to grin and bear it through these kind of sections of track and hope you make a mistake somewhere more critical, like coming onto one of these straights here. Turner's lead, it's grown a second and a little bit on the last lap. Didn't look like Turner was saving any fuel. Looked like Albert maybe was a little bit. Bailey in third. The action's happening here, fourth, fifth, sixth, where Kelly is on Cleland and John Merritt reeling in the both of them. There's always a bigger fish.
BMW's just stretching their legs in tow. Could upset one of them just down here as well, but they get them pulled up and around for the run down the hill. Merritt closes that gap ever so slightly. Said before, that Mercedes looking very planted. Same with the BMWs though. So it really is going to come down to who can get it done. Who's going to take the gamble. There's plenty of curb used there by Brock Kelly as he is exploring everywhere where he might be able to make something happen here. And just that pressure, that relentless pressure for an 8-minute lap would be enough to get a mistake as he's having a look here. Cullen says, no, you're not having a go down here. Not on my watch. So having a look at the back of Cullen's car now. I mean, down here, down into the township, you might be able to get the move done if you can get close enough, if you can get a good run through. Down, he's run wide, so that's going to cost him a little bit. And what it does is opens John Merritt up here. He's almost under a second. He'll be looking to be there by the time they get round, if he hasn't already passed to the back half of this lap, so he can get that draft and get a move done. Some of the best parts of this race course, motor circuit, racing circuit, whatever you like to call it.
Tourist farting?
Tourist, absolutely. Down through the town, and they'll make the run.
It's right on him.
Yeah,
you know who's not too far behind? Capel's got a bit of a measure of this as well. He's only 3 seconds back there, and he's well in the overall championship as well. Looks like he's going to pick up a bit of ground on Connell. Not going to pick up any ground on Albert or Merritt or Turner at the moment. But as Connell stumbles a little bit this round, Capel remains amongst it.
It's the thing, it's about accumulating as well, so Connell will be disappointed that he hasn't been able to finish this one out. Unusual too, rarely do we see Connell not finish a race, so big opportunity towards the first of the carousels. And not much has changed other than John Merritt now firmly entrenched in this battle for 4th place. You can see Lachlan Capel just off in the background there as well. Get the benefit of the draft. Capel comes through the first of the carousels too, gets a good exit. Lamborghini looking reasonably settled as well. 4.7 seconds just off the tail here, but that can close up incredibly quickly, as we've seen with Merritt.
We really just don't know where they all stand on fuel at this point as well. Who's saved a lot, how much Merritt was able to fill at the first stop, how much they're all going to need to take at a second stop, if there is one. So, I mean, the track position for, maybe helps him around a little bit, looks to redress it as Kelly got to the bumper of Hamish Cleland, and it could have been the most monstrous of accidents. And they all come out the other side, half a second delayed.
Person who did really well there was John Merritt. He got held up. He was trying to look for a way through on both of them. But Kelly, trying to do the right thing, just held Merritt up as well. So this battle resumes. Have a quick look at it here on board. He just got a little bit loose. And then got a bump. That's the one. So just on the brake a little bit there, where I think it was Kelly probably not expecting it.
Yeah, back live, the pressure is right on, and you've got to think about not carrying too much speed through that little carousel as the BMW out front washes out wide again from Cleland. Kelly looks to capitalize, looks to be close as possible onto the Nottingham Hood. Merritt smells blood too. We might be coming up towards more pit stops as well. There's only so many opportunities when you're looking at a 7 or an 8 lap race. That pit lane, you don't see it all that often, so it gets used quite often. Here's Turner out front, pulled another 2.5 on Albert this lap. They've got equal fastest laps of the race, but Turner right now putting in quicker times than Albert, who might have something up his sleeve. They're side by side here, though. A good run using the slipstream. Kelly gets his nose in front. Merritt thinking 2 for 1, but the track narrows up too early for him, and he says, they're going to collide in front of me again. I'm going to give him a couple more car lengths of space. Kelly gets the move done. Turner goes to pit lane. Albert goes to pit lane for the second time. Bailey, Kelly, Cleland, and Merritt doesn't have the strategy advantage we thought he might have.
Or does he? Let's see how long he fills here. He should be able to fill much shorter than those in front of him.
But if you still had more fuel, if you had fuel for one more lap, you'd have taken that clean air. He's been held up enough already. He's got massive speed, and we know it.
He may think or may know he's going to get out quicker, so we'll just watch here. See who gets out first. Turner on his way already. Merritt has pit lane position as well. For all that's worth, Albert's out. And no, it hasn't worked out for him.
No, something obviously went wrong at the first stop, and potentially again at this stop for Merritt, as it's another relatively long one. He's side by side again on the pit exit. This time he gets ahead more comfortably. Deja vu all over again for John Merritt, and that'll be the final round of pit stops. Now 3 laps to go in this one. Turner leads 8.6 seconds ahead of Bo Albert from Matt Bailey, Scott Hazeler. Brock Kelly's got work to do on track all over again. And then Merritt and Cleland.
So Merritt now behind Sam Lehman in the Mercedes.
Yet to make the second stop.
Absolutely.
Driving this works out best for is Scott Hazeler, because he made that second stop last lap, and the fussing, the fighting, everyone else, boom, he's back in front of Kelly, Merritt, and Cleland again.
Yeah, and up into P5, I think. So it has played out well for him. Look at the gaps here at the front. So Turner still clearly out in front. 8 seconds to Bo Albert. Doing a good job there, Turner. Matt Bailey currently sitting in third. Waiting for Nick Wood, who's second on track, to make his final stop. So we've got to get through this lap. Run second stop, then we'll see how this one can play out. Everyone survived to the end is the other question, of course, is Thomas Leprake's on screen.
Yeah, looking then again at that AM class, still waiting on that second stop from Nick Wood and Sam Lehman, but Leprake has made his. He's third in class at the moment. Looks like he'll definitely pick up the second place from Lehman. But Nick Wood, good qualifying, good race pace so far. Wood is 30 seconds or so ahead of Leprake, so a little touch and go there. Leprake might have him if the second stop isn't a really quick one from Nick Wood, who's going to need to take 2 laps of fuel on board if he stops at the end of this one.
The pit lane entry here affords you the ability to really attack that line as well, so that's going to be important.
So yeah, based on those numbers, I think super touch and go for this AM win between Wood and Leprake the way they run at the moment.
David Bass currently back up into 4th position in the AM class, but he still needs to make his second stop.
See him get jumped by Brandon Grosh and potentially Stephen Tonkin, Ben Jeffrey as well. It's been a happy hunting ground for Brock Kelly. He always closes massive car lengths in the unsighted and challenging way up towards Ardnauer Forst. And we've seen it lead to him putting on some really interesting pressure in this part of the track here, where he saw a move get made, but then also a move get defended before the pit stops.
Yeah, he's been able to consistently really run aggressively in traffic too, which is not easy around here. You can definitely get caught watching or line watching the driver in front of you, just with the pace of the circuit as well. So he's doing a really, really good job. Set a couple of clean passes too, which is difficult to execute outside of the GP circuit.
Fastest lap of the race at the moment, still belonging to John Merritt. A bit of work to do in the final laps because he's got some cars to pass. Something held him in his first pit stop that he's really struggled to recover from, because while everyone else was making 14-second pit stops, he made a 25-second pit stop. Okay, but then he didn't get that time back in the second round. He stops right identical to everyone else again. So if he was, a couple more seconds further up the road in that first stint, he'd be even more seconds up the road again, less traffic. He'd really be somewhere potentially challenging Bo Albert for that second. But time lost early on really compounds at a track that it can be so difficult to pass.
We maybe miss him missing his pit box and having to move the car back a bit, or
yeah, but that
something
normally
like
for
that.
me displays as pit lane time, not stop time. I've got it as stop time.
True. It's 25 odd seconds of stop time. So yeah, you're right. Good point. So I don't know. It's very unusual.
I'm gonna wind back and have a look. Curiosity has got me.
Maybe they took too many windscreen tear-offs at one time, or something simple like that. I don't know. We'll have a look and see what it is. But plenty of pressure still being applied, but still being absorbed as well by Hassler here. He's doing a good job at just not quite worrying too much about what's going on behind him at the moment. And Brock Kelly is doing what he can. As I think Sam Lehman has had a big off in the background. That Mercedes looking very much Sebastian Krabesque like. He's doing a fairly mean job to get it around the track, but I think he's going to have to park that one and call the RACV to get him back to the pit lane. Because
It's ADAC in Germany, but yeah, he'll give him a dial.
He can try ring them. I think there might be a while though. So we have a look at the replay here. I think he just dropped a wheel. Oh no, he's just gone straight ahead and clipped the curb. And all control goes. He's done well to keep it away from everybody else there, but that is a big single car crash, and that thing is now 4-wheel steer or 3-wheel steer. 2 of the wheels doing their own thing.
It's going to join the Beatles and head down to Krabby Road Studios.
Wow, yes he is. Indeed. And the Hassler-Kelly situation just hasn't changed. Surely both contenders for Super Cheap Auto gift card for making it super. It's only been entertaining. Merritt closing back up on the back of this. Of course, when we went into pit lane, he was right there with them.
Now, Merritt stopped 3 centimeters out of his box, which probably trips the timing, but he came to a complete stop. The service didn't start. By the time he realized, got it into reverse gear, reversed half an inch backwards, and service started. He'd gone and lost all of that time. So no tires, no extra benefit, just time lost with a little mistake in a crowded pit lane on the first stop. Now side by side, is this an opportunity for Brock Kelly to make the move stick on Scott Hassler, who has to yield?
Nice and clean Question is, how far will he be able to set off into the distance now with some clean space in front of him? He's only 3 seconds behind Matt Bailey as well, so he might be able to challenge for podium here, Brock Kelly.
Here's a great example of how the Nordschleife works. 9 minutes 30 on the clock as the leader crosses the start-finish line. 8-minute lap times. We are going to have a 67-minute, 60-minute race. No white flag just yet.
Yeah, Barney's got that well and truly by his side. Just say there it is, the ADAC already at the track. It's disappointing for Lemony. He was having a good run as well. He did have to serve his final stop, but that tow round will take a number of minutes, probably 6 or 7 minutes for him to get back to pit lane. But now the question is, can Brock Kelly hold off Scott Hassler? And John Merritt's closed that gap now down to just on a second as well. So he'll join them by the time we get through this lap for the last lap, you would think. A good race for P4. There, Chuka Toyota sponsoring the series along with simrigs.com, Exodus Racing and Index Designs on top of the Super Cheap Auto voucher as we jump on board with John Merritt. Thank them all for the support of the series. What's he going to be able to do here? He'll close up, I reckon, through this next section. The boys, Kelly and Haslerwood, were sort of tripping one another over on this first part of the older track. And he's going to get right up behind them. So there might be an opportunity a little bit earlier for Merritt. I think the run out of the last couple of corners from the carousel really affected his run on that straight. He wasn't able to use the draft to his advantage to potentially make that move before those last pit stops. We're having a look here at Nick Wood, who I think has just served his second stop. So he's now fueled to the end. So he has come out in front of Leprake. No, he hasn't. Sorry, behind Leprake. My apologies. So he's 3.9 seconds behind Leprake, who has done both his stops as well. So 4-second gap to the lead of the AM class. And both of those drivers also inside the top 10 outright. So doing a fantastic job otherwise anyhow. But we'll see as the break goes through there. Bottom of your screen. We'll just see if you can close that gap down too. So that, you know, it is now very much in the mind of planning. They know they're going to do at least this lap and one more. So it's where and how can you do it. They've been looking at one another for the last 54 minutes, give or take. Understand
Now,
one another's fast on the track, so.
I was driving the other day. I was behind a 97 Mitsubishi Lancer with no brake lights. So you can actually get them for sub $20 on the on your super cheap auto, right? So we need to make it super. That person I was driving behind that had blown all the bulbs out of their brake lights.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to actually tell me that you were driving behind a Honda Civic and then bring up the fact that the Honda Civic set the fastest production car
Front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive. Lap around here, which actually is not too dissimilar to the lap times we're doing tonight. It was an 8-minute odd lap.
But not of the combined circuit.
Very true. Very true. Of the OG.
Industry fighting, yeah.
The original circuit. So I thought you were headed with that, but no, as always, bringing us some super specials from Super Cheap Auto.
Yeah, I mean, for example, an Endurolite Automotive Globes stop tail 12 volts, $7.29, and that's for a set of 2. We could have fixed that person's car for $7.30 and made it properly super, or maybe made it not dangerous.
And grabbed a Monster Energy drink on the way out as well.
It's even in stock at my local Super Cheap Auto. I imagine it'd have to be carried very widely and in great stock. Let's take a look at a replay here as early in the lap for Ben Jeffrey in the Hudson-Bach tried to turn in off the grass, and that is not a recipe for success at all. He's bitten the Armco pretty hard early on in the lap. Big pressure on here. Like we say, always a bigger fish. Here comes John Merritt.
And he is hounding all over the back of the Hassler BMW. We haven't really been able to see where that Mercedes is strong. We've seen Kelly do quite well in the early part of the lap, but we haven't been able to pick out somewhere that Mercedes is just on song. Matt Bailey not too far up the road either, actually, so not sure if something happened there, but that gap has dropped down to under 3 seconds now as well. So you can just see him there up the road. So battle for the podium potentially not done at all. Okay, he's going to be where and when do you try and push the button?
And even though there's only a couple of minutes left on the timer, your leader will get around just in the nick of time to start one more lap of this combined circuit, which Jay Kennedy's graphic tried to mislead us as being 20.4. That's only the Nordschleife combined with the Grand Prix circuit. We've got 25.95 kilometers on the Gesamtstrecke 24-hour layout. And Kelly, something the shoe's on the other foot. He's the one going wide off the circuit across the grass, and he's going to lose two. Hassler goes back through. Merritt picks one off. Could have been a much bigger accident as well.
Yeah, and Kelly's going to struggle for a little bit here while those tyres get back to normal. So he'll drop off a little bit at the back. This might be what Merritt was looking for. If you can stick on the back of Hassler, dare say in a straight line, he'll probably be able to get that job done as we head towards the close of the lap. The other thing as well, the gap in the AM class down to 1.7 seconds now between Leprake and Wood. So that has closed significantly as well over this lap. Well, the part of the lap they've done so far, a little bit behind our leaders, but not too far. So that still probably has a story to tell there with one more lap to go.
Story to tell. The reviews section on these brake light bulbs, every second one is my kind of thing. It's like, oh, brake light bulb was blown on my friend's i30. It was pissing me off. I went and fixed it for them because it was pissing me off that much. Brilliant. It's a good review.
Absolutely. Well, I guess you
What about the rear view from Scott Hassler?
I guess you can't tell that it's working while you're in the car. He's off on the grass there a little bit, Hassler, as well. So Merritt's going to, I reckon, definitely get it done here. He's in a good position to close this out. How brave is he going to be as Luke Turner puts in an 8:04.5 to take fastest lap away from John Merritt as Merritt's getting that pulse tuning. Chuka Toyota. Mercedes-Benz pulled up.
He pulls to the pit lane. Scott Hassler doesn't have enough fuel to do one more lap of the Nordschleife. With only a minute on the clock, they've got to do one more, and Hassler's in the pit lane for a third stop. No hint of that kind of fuel saving needed from Turner, Albert, or Bailey, because Turner's gone and reset the fastest lap of the race on the lap just completed.
That moves Lachlan Capel up into 6th as well. So he's had a quiet night, but a constructive night. Gap between Pro and Am leader here, between Am P1 and P2 here just stretches a little. But Nick Wood certainly has Thomas Leprake in his eye line as we get into this last lap, what will be the last lap of this endurance race.
Here's another 5-star review. I was in a really dark place, but after buying these bulbs, the future has never looked brighter for me. There you go. 5 stars.
Unbelievable that people have that amount of time on their hands to actually log on and do something like that, but never mind. Particularly given that the brake light would be behind them.
Yeah.
But
I believe in the mighty Ford Falcon, if any of your tail lights or brake lights are blown, they're on the same circuit or fuse or something as the dash cluster lights. So if you go to turn your headlights on and the dash doesn't light up, it's not because the illumination on the dash cluster is broken. It's actually a warning that the lights you can't see are out.
It is information that I'm not aware of, but quite possible. Would make sense. Of course, these days most cars, new cars, will just tell you that you've got a brake light out. Gap out.
And the dash
Good.
cluster will light up without you turning the headlights on, which is why everyone's driving around without their headlights on.
It's very true, as Bailey is going to start to come under pressure here from John Merritt, who is off and free. You can see that the gap's closed down. Matt Bailey will be very much aware that John Merritt is getting closer and closer.
We could also have some drivers out there who are in a similar boat to Scott Hasler, but decided to chance it and coasted around a little bit on this final lap. A chance maybe that Matt Bailey is in that boat somewhat. Every chance that Bo Albert's in that. He's still dropping back and quickly from the race leader. Luke Turner got pace to burn as well. It looks like a Mercedes might well be the car to be again.
Have a listen here on board with Bo Albert just to see if he is saving.
Or maybe he's just slow.
It would be very unusual. Could just be enjoying, of course, being a tourist road, could just be enjoying the scenery. It's been a hard, arduous 60 minutes for him. I'll just be having a look around, enjoying what's going on. Of course, Luke Turner did just put in the fastest lap of the race as well, so it could just be that Turner's turned the wick up. He's got no fuel issues at all, and he is pushing to bring that Mercedes-Benz home in flying fashion.
Not even close, because Turner's got a best of an 8:045. The next best is John Merritt with an 8:07.4. There's basically 3 whole seconds in it. Turner's best to Merritt's best. Now, I'm not sure Merritt's ever had a clean lap so far in this race. And every time he gets an opportunity to demonstrate his pace, we see exactly what a penalty that pit stop mistake was the first time around.
We're definitely seeing it here because he's already closed up to the bumper of Matt Bailey in P3, so he is getting to work to get himself in a position to challenge Matt Bailey for P3 in this one. Definitely be the final lap. That gap has closed. He's spaced out away from Brock Kelly, so Kelly potentially managing fuel or just not able to quite keep pace, as the gap in our AM category has closed as well down to under a second between McCrae and Wood. Mercedes just pull up here in the draft. It's going to be tough to get it done through here. Maybe force a little mistake.
There's not a car width to the right. There's got to be a car width to the left. And John Merritt thinks there is to the inside of the Bravery corner. And Bravey will have to be. And maybe foolish. His competitor ends up grazing the Armco. Big damage for Matt Bailey.
Yeah, I'd love to have a look at a replay of that.
I was watching from the chopper, and I reckon Merritt was as far to the inside as you can get. Only 2 drivers can turn into that corner at once, and one of them was on the inside.
Have a look. That BMW not going anywhere. So having a look from up above here.
And Merritt's got an almighty run. He looks to the right-hand side here, and then that door gets closed in his face. So he's looking right, car width gets closed, looking left, door always gets closed, and he says, nope, I've got a Mercedes width here. I've got a run. You got to give it to me. They're exactly level here as they go in towards the corner. Merritt's go into the apex. Merritt leaves a car width on the outside. Do you see differently?
No, not at all. I see that as great driving, and unfortunately probably just a little bit too much turn in on the outside there, but he probably ran out of track, so nothing from mine for that whatsoever, other than really good racing and just an unfortunate outcome at the last part of the race, the last lap of the race.
This lead for Turner is ballooning very, very quickly on this final lap. Now to 19 seconds, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost 21 or 22 by the end of this. Only a couple of corners left for, in fact, You come over the crest here, out onto the Dotting Hoor, and there's only one braking zone left on the circuit. Even if the finish line is still 4 kilometers away at this point, Luke Turner, challenged in that first stint by John Merritt, who started alongside him on the front row of the race. But after that first round of pit stops, it's all been the Luke Turner show in Simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am at the Nordschleife.
So it's been a change for the AM lead as well, and the gap there is huge. I'm not sure if Leprake's out of fuel or low on fuel, but Nick Wood's taking the lead, and it's gapped, to 6 or 7 seconds. So see if we can find out what's going on there. Nick Wood moves into the lead.
Last lap not optimal for Leprake, who had an 8-minute 13, but kind of matches his fastest lap. No one can match Luke Turner at the end of almost 68 minutes of racing in this enduro round. He takes the win, and commanding fashion too. Still more than 20 seconds clear from Bo Albert, who hasn't taken the checkered flag just yet. This is Leprake for the AM lead. Nick Wood behind him on the replay, heading down towards Brightside on the final lap. Oh, there's a bump at the apex at this right-hander. He gets out wide. He gets the curb. Tony hawks it, goes for a 180. Nick Wood says, I'll take the race lead. Not too much damage done to Leprake, but some egg on his face, no doubt.
And not to be overshadowed, Luke Turner sets the fastest lap of the race on the final lap of the race as well. But we're on board here with Nick Wood. He's going to come across the line and take out the win in the AM category as well. A great drive from him to get that one home. Bo Albert, John Merritt rounding out our top 3 in the pro category. So looking at the back of David Bass here, Steve Tonkin trying to chase him down to make some a final place. David Bass done well to get up to 4 in the AM class. He had a terrible run there before the first round of pit stops. Just about everybody having a go at him.
Oh, I think it was sort of that in-between phase of the race where some of the quick guys had pitted a little early, emerged right behind him who hadn't stopped yet. And that's where some of the fireworks happened as well, I think, when you get that mismatch on the strategy.
So it's done well to bring that one home. Okay, so Leprake did end up getting home in second in the AM category. David is 4th on track. Through these last couple of corners. We'll be looking forward to having a break after this one. It's been a long one for them. Consider the practice and qualifying before this 68-minute race. David Baz brings that across the line as well. So I think take P3 potentially, was P4 in the AM category. So let's have a look at the results. After 8 laps, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a monumental amount of effort. It is Luke Turner who took out the race win with the fastest lap at the end of the race as well, just to show it was no accident. 20 seconds ahead of Bo Albert in P2 and John Merritt with a hard-fought resurgence back into P3 after a couple of pit stops not going his way. We go back, it was P4 for Brock Kelly, Lachlan Capel in P5, and Hamish Colland 6th with Brady Stanley in P7, Scott Hasley in 8, Adam Funzo in 9, and Christopher Henn in P10. A great battle throughout the race amongst those drivers. Richard Brookfield brings home 11. Chu Chang gets 12th with Jordan Peter in 13th, Matt Bailey in 14th, Colin Schwerk in 15th, Jeff Connell 16th, and Tyson Broad in 17th position for our pro category.
Well, my, it served up 67 minutes of action, and in AM, Nick Wood, bold fuel strategy, saw him second on the road on the final lap, hunting down Thomas Leprake, trying to put that pressure on, and Leprake did eventually buckle on that load to finish second, approaching third in the AM category here from Baz, just ahead of Tonkin, Jeffrey Wang, Sam Lehman, Ben Pollock, and Harry Lawrence. Porsche looking a little evil at the Nordschleife, but he still stayed on the lead lap with Ben Jeffrey just the lap down there and Adam Jepson 3 laps back. Got a couple of drivers who are going to have a chat with us now after that race as well, and I reckon we can get the race winner in Luke Turner. There's only one driver who could match you on pace today, and he couldn't match you on strategy. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
The Nordschleife is a challenge, no doubt. Officially 170 turns on this combined layout, and you mastered all of them to come away with a win that I'm sure you're proud of.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I love this track. It's with no doubt my favorite track. I think we had a little car advantage tonight, but I've also done like a stack of laps preparing for the 24, not this weekend, next weekend. So I was well prepared for a change, and yeah, we got lucky with a bit of horsepower coming to the late end of the season.
Swings and roundabouts, and also carousels, as it turns out. So qualifying would have been pretty important as well. With 2 attempts, how did you approach it with just 2 timed laps?
Well, I knew that qualifying is really important here because really the only spot you can pass safely is the dot and the GP track. I mean, there are other opportunities, but they're pretty risky. So I knew the second lap would always be the quicker lap by about a second. So really the first one I just made sure I got a banker, and then the second one I just sort of really focused and just tried to put the hammer down, and I managed to get a good lap in.
Well, congratulations to you again. Over 20 seconds, the winning margin, and making sure that everyone did the full number of laps as well.
Yeah, like I said, I love this place. So an extra lap was another 8 minutes of enjoyment. So yeah, no, it was good fun.
Beautiful. Catch you for the rest of the championship as well, hopefully.
Cool, thank you.
He sounds awfully relaxed for
It does. Far too calm.
all he's just done.
Far too calm, particularly given the laps that he's just done, as you said. But anyway, that's fine. Everyone has their joy, and this is his the track he enjoys. So that's good to hear. Bring John Merritt up into the booth. John, welcome to the booth.
Oh, he's back. Sorry.
Oh, he's back. We've dropped him in and now. You just opened the door. John, congratulations. Long time no speak. A great solid drive for you there after a mishap early on in the first pit stop.
Yeah, Stu, thanks. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a fueling. Didn't start to fuel, and I went forward and back, and so I don't know whether I lost 10 or 12 seconds. I'm not sure, but I think my software mucked up, so I was pretty frustrated after that. But no, it was good.
No, well, you certainly put in the drive back to get back in behind Brock and Hamish Cleland and just join that battle as they were fighting. It was really difficult to make the passes. We're just talking with Luke Turner about the lack of opportunities around this track. Yeah, but you managed to get it done there just towards the end of that final lap to get back into the podium.
Yeah, no, sadly, Matt Bailey on that quick left-hander sort of tried to hold the outside and didn't end well for him. And sadly, I had a 0x to that point and got a 2x when he sort of hit my rear bumper. But anyway, that's iRacing, isn't it?
Well, it was definitely good racing to watch. We enjoyed your pursuit and that run up the hill there. So congratulations on a race well run. A couple of small mistakes, mate. You would have been pushing Bo, I think, for P2.
Yeah, no, it would have been good, but yeah, next time.
Absolutely. Congratulations on a good result.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
One more standing by, and it's our AM winner, Nick Wood, who absolutely had an entertaining race, taking that lead back on the final lap, the stuff of dreams.
Yeah, definitely. Feel sorry for Thomas, who, he just made one mistake, really.
Walk us through your strategy, because it was definitely unique, and I don't think it it hurt you at all?
Just run the tank out and run the tank out again.
You ran it out longer than just about anyone else. Our last driver to complete all of their stops would have given you a bit of fresh air on some laps as well, which, you know, for there being so much racetrack here, the track position actually pretty important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I had clear track in front of me most laps, really, apart from that last lap and the first lap.
Well, it's a really strong result in a hot championship in the AM division, and a lot can go for you or against you the way that the traffic amongst the pro class falls. What are you hoping for the remainder of the season?
Just to be consistent, really. Just want to try and finish all the races and see where we end up.
Well, I wish you luck with that. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to thank my team, Twitchy Foot Racing, and Neil from Player One Sim Gear. He came on board this year.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, David, that was a big dominant performance from Luke Turner. Fastest lap by 4 seconds over the closest contender. We're back here next week with a race at Belle Isle, but before we do that, we've got to award the Make It Super award thanks to Super Cheap Auto to somebody, and it is Brock Kelly. Place P4 took that a number of good passes and just some overall really solid racing throughout the whole night.
Yep, qualified 7th, raced with immense focus, made some passes in some places we don't often see happen, and really made it super to end up in 4th with a good team result there as well. So $20 of Super Cheap Auto voucher heading Brock Kelly's way to spend as and where and how and when he pleases. And that brings us to a close from the Nordschleife, but we look forward to Belle Isle next week. I think the walls are just as close, but the character of the circuit is definitely different. So is the character of the surroundings. Ask me how I know. You'll catch it all here on SimSpeed, same time next week. I look forward to you joining us then. I've been David Haynes with Jay Kennedy, with Stu Brown. What a race from the Nordschleife.
So you do like it? I love it, yeah.
Now when you go pre-owned, you can enjoy the same feeling you get with a new Toyota. Tested and backed by Toyota.
Upgrade your car, mate.
This? Yeah, no big deal.
Toyota certified. Pre-owned in a class of its own. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.